Okay, Job Board Secrets fans, I'm Chris Russell here with another quick interview with you. We've got our friend Andrew here from Aspen Tech Labs. Of course, they run Job Board Mount. But today we're going to talk about job scraping and what it is and talk about their product, Web Spider Mount, which is available for job boards out there to scrape jobs off employer sites and places. And so we're going to talk about that today and get a quick demo of that as well. Andrew, again, is in the Ukraine. So, Andrew, welcome again, and nice to see you again.
Thanks, nice to see you too.
Awesome. So, I guess let's start out by saying, what is job scraping? How would you define that for the audience, if you could?
Yeah, sure. So basically, that's data synchronization. It's a part of this bigger task of data synchronization, and specifically for jobs. We do different types of this kind of web data management. Job rep is one of those. And
job wrapping. Okay.
Yeah, job wrapping. Yeah, and most people say about getting new jobs posted to their website automatically without manual copy and paste. That's most common approach. But we also think that very important is also keeping that information fully synchronized, meaning that updates should also propagate, and even what's more important is like expired jobs, deleted jobs should be also deleted on endpoints on target websites.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of the kind of challenges of scraping, right, or wrapping, is making sure that you have the accurate number of jobs in the feed correctly indexed, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. In terms of the frequency of this wrapping, what is the typical scenario there?
Most common is like nightly. So depending on time zone, clients want to get their information updated on the morning. So that's let's say daily, right? In some cases, when that's kind of analysis, weekly is enough, but it's not that common. And the other side of this is like as close to real time as possible, and that's also what we do, like with let's say 2 minutes. That's also an option.
Yep. And so Web Spider Mount, is it webspidermount.com, I think, is the URL?
Yep, it is.
Okay. And typically you provide these scrapes for job boards. Is that correct? Do you also do employers, or is it just job boards?
For employers, it's more like sending their jobs to different aggregators or job boards, so kind of job distribution thing. And for job boards, it's just getting jobs from their clients to a job board.
Gotcha. Is it very technical? I mean, how for the job board owner, what do they have to do basically to get started here?
So it depends on actual interest of a client. So it can be like as easy as possible, just giving us employer name, for example, and then get their jobs on the website if we have access, for example, to information, what kind of format is needed, right? So it's that simple to start, but then it can get more complicated depending on what people need. For example, let's say multiplication. If one job is posted to a couple of cities, couple of locations, that can be multiplied. Each job will be separately posted, or can be filtered, or API can be integrated. So let's say amount of implementations and different kinds of implementation is quite big one, and we are just happy to answer questions. People ask, okay, can we integrate our job board with your job scraping API? Yes, we have that, and you can have, for example, add scrape button on a job board or refresh jobs button on a job board. So it can go from very easy start to more complex integrations, more complex data processing.
Okay. Well, you're going to share your screen. I guess you got a little demo here for us, show us the back end of all this and how everything's managed. So feel free to get started there, and let's see what you guys got.
Sure. So do you have that now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm starting from the home page we have, and just a couple of interesting things there. So you see jobs rep, the first point, and that's a part of this bigger web data management stuff. And whoever wants to see kind of introduction video, here
So
is
you
the
do this
link.
for other types of classified sites like auto sites and
Yeah, yeah, and you
property
see
classified.
jobs is one of them.
Yep.
And jobs like most detailed for like how it's written down, different types of implementations, different types of data management are described there. So meaning like filtering, for example, right, is very common, mapping. So lots of things, jobs enhancement, adding geo coordinates, kind of different ways of doing this. Most of that is written down there in features. So if you want to get a closer look at this. But yeah, I want to mention that this video, it's pretty like self-explanatory in terms of like what the service does. So I encourage to review this.
Okay.
And to provide more insights on how we actually do it, we vote for transparency between people who want their data and where this data is coming from in terms of like setting up feed itself is pretty easy, let's say, compared to other stuff. And this other stuff is like maintaining this to work for a long time, right? Because nobody wants to get an email from clients saying, where are my jobs? I haven't seen them for 3 months already. So that's what we do. We monitor those data flows. And we think we have that covered very well in terms of like lots of different cases. Internet is dynamic thing, right? So it changes daily, even like as we speak right now.
Yep.
So we have kind of like
I was doing job repping at a job board a couple of years ago, and one challenge we had was the feeds on the ATSs that we were scraping from inevitably broke at certain points in time. Is that
yeah.
an issue is that one of the challenges you guys face as well?
Yeah. So just one quick number there is during the year period, 40% of sites, of all sites, should be changed, should be updated, reconfigured. So if you have 1,000 sites configured on the January 1st, by the end of this year, only 60% of that will work if you don't do anything.
Gotcha.
Other 40% will go down.
Yeah, it's always changing. So gotta keep up.
Yeah, and that's meaning only major updates. Minor updates are even more frequent.
Yeah. What about
Okay.
use cases there? That's an interesting link. What do you have under there?
There?
Yeah, use cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have there a couple challenges that we covered for our clients, saying like cleaning up location information or enhancing this, or we can optimize, for example, load for how jobs are imported. If the feed is pretty big, let's say 100,000 jobs, right? And you probably don't want to update it daily, right? You just want to get changes.
Changes, yeah.
And new jobs updates and deletes. And this way, like all cloud infrastructure actually depends on number of requests or CPU time, right? Processing time. So this can be optimized by sending only updates for bigger feeds.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, that's about mapping. So depending on what level of mapping needed, different ways of doing this.
Technically speaking, how is wrapping done? You set like a crawler to a web page and you collect that data, you organize it, and then you map it to the job board's own database. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is no secret. Everybody does it, right? And basically, there are different ways of scraping information, and whoever does scraping should keep in mind that webmasters of that source site actually don't want their jobs to be, data in general to be scraped too aggressively, right? So whoever does it should keep in mind that as little request as possible should be done. And for
Right.
example, when it's real time, especially, we don't want to make that site
Yeah,
offline.
you shouldn't be scraping every hour. It should just be once a
Yeah,
day, essentially at night.
yeah.
And for
To reduce load. So yeah,
right.
it's getting only information that you need, then parsing that into blocks, mapping first fields. For example, job title. We should recognize the job title and send it to specific either API field or like XML field, and then do all kinds of cleaning up, mapping of data. Let's say categories from source side should be mapped to categories of a website who wants those jobs on the endpoint, the target website.
Okay.
That's as we call it. Yeah, and then monitoring. Once it's live, then monitoring is in place.
Yep. All right. What else you got here? You got an admin demo here you want to show us?
Yep. So basically, that's about the level of transparency we want to keep as high as possible. And so what we show there, kind of information about what are the scrapes, dates, when it was activated, when it was last updated, stats about like how much jobs were updated, then like schedule, restart option. And if anything is broken, then clients actually will see that, for example, scrape AB in Bev is not reachable and it's assigned to our Spider-Mount team. So basically, what we do there is kind of monitoring system plus tickets tracking plus issues monitoring. So that's all combined in one place. It's created by us. And we keep updating this, meaning that adding new features, like for example, you can preview actual information that is received from a source.
Okay.
You can see if any mapping is needed there. Let's say new job type is showing up. It's like full-time without hyphen, for example, right? And in this case, it's mapped, but if it's not mapped, then those jobs will not be imported correctly. So we keep that monitoring and monitored and shown. We have archive of data showing, for example, what jobs were posted yesterday. If you want to compare or debug something, or I don't know, keep tracking of updates. And of course, you can request for new scrapes by adding request for configuration, which actually triggers workflow for is it possible to set up? In most cases, it is. What is like the expected timeline, and that's a couple of days usually.
Yeah.
And things like that, filtering some other information.
So you guys probably scrape a lot of different ATSs out there. In your experience, what ATSs are usually a problem for the scrape and which are really good for the scrape? I'm curious.
Well, for us, basically, we had such difference between them years before, but now we figured out things like not a big difference for us to scrape easy. For example, iSeams is easy to scrape, but for us it's the same time of configuration and as, for example, brass ring or OAuth is another one, complex one. I would say that the most complex ones are broken sites. It's very frequent, by the way, that return right now, let's say 900 jobs, and in an hour they return 500 jobs. That happens quite frequently. So those unstable sites are tricky to configure. And then, if sites like this non-uniform structure, which also sometimes happens.
Yep. I imagine like the older ATSs maybe are some of those, like the Teleos of the world, or
I wouldn't say it's complex stuff.
no.
So,
Gotcha. Okay, very cool.
And we actually treated ATS as fine, so we had, like everybody, had blocking issues, right? But we get back to them saying that, like, we are not like a black scraper or something, or spammers. So people know us, and we agree, like, if, for example, if you need to reduce frequency of requests, right? Webmaster asks us to do it, we can accommodate that request.
Do you have job board clients that scrape other job boards?
We don't think it's a good way of doing business. Like, basically, that's without agreement, we don't do it at all.
Right, you need to.
If you see, job boards actually spend time getting their jobs, right, and that's their asset, right. Just getting jobs is not that we do.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there anything else you want to show us here, Andrew?
Yeah, I will just open quickly one scrape to show you like what we do there in terms of archive. We save the archive. We keep information about, like, what has been requested, whether the scrape was approved, right, or any changes needed. So we keep history of all communication, and as thousands of sites are configured for different clients, and it takes maybe like a couple months, people change, right? So we keep all the history together. We can track if anything was like requested before, and that makes our support easier for all parties, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. And what's the pricing like for something like this? Is it per scrape? Is it for a bulk number of scrapes, or?
Yeah, it depends on number of scrapes, and of course for bigger amounts there are discounts, but it's consists of two sections. First is configuration cost, and then it's like monthly support cost, and it doesn't actually depend on how many jobs there are until thousands of jobs, let's say 15,000. Yeah. So up to, I guess, 15,000 of jobs, it's the same pricing. Let's say 10 jobs and 10,000 is the same.
Okay. And what would that price be? Can you give us a ballpark here?
Approximately today, it's kind of $50 for setting up new scrape, and something like 25 per month for supporting that.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. Pretty cheap. I mean, it seems pretty affordable overall. Well, appreciate the information today, Andrew, and demo. Anything else you want to leave us with as we wrap up?
Yeah, one quick thing there. Encourage you to try it. Like, whoever wants to do it, there is a demo we do for either that's with job board, with our job mount job board. We have one free for 6 months, or just request a demo, and it's free to set it up, to run it. There is no cost to start. Yep. So after starting that, you can decide if you want to proceed.
Awesome. Well, again, webspidermount.com, and Andrew, good to see you again. Thanks for the information.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody.
All right.